Uniswap v3, it's coming. Just 14 days on the countdown remain, and the protocol drops on the Ethereum mainnet. Not many people are talking about it right now, but this channel's anthem is always, if you ain't first, you're last. That means the others will be talking soon. Why? Find out in about 10 minutes or less, because it's time for Chico Crypto. Why do I think v3 of Uniswap will be important? Another anthem of mine: the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Uniswap v2 was muy importante for the health of the markets and setting the stage for the run we are currently in. And I think v3 could be the spark the markets need to get going once again. So, v2 of Uniswap launched on the Ether mainnet May 18th, 2020, less than 1 year ago, but holy schmackerel, it feels like a lifetime. And there was a mini bubble because of this v2 launch, which kicked off the DeFi summer bubble of 2020. Pulling out the BTC chart, you can see it. 1 month after v2, BTC broke 10K and looked to be bullish, busting through 12K. The driver of that wasn't BTC, it was DeFi. As we can see, after the v2 launch of Uniswap, DeFi exploded. It was under 1 billion May of 2020 DeFi TVL, and by the end of the summer 2020, it was crossing 10 billion. Now, looking at that TVL chart expanded out and the Bitcoin price today, TVL is falling and the BTC price is struggling to break 60K. V3 is weeks away. Can it do it again? Can V3 get another surge going? In my opinion, oh yeah, because v3 has much more up its sleeve than the white paper and blog leads you to believe, and that is coming from the partners of Uniswap and its community. So within the v3 blog, Uniswap v3 Core is launching under the Business Source License 1.1, basically giving the core contracts protection from being copied. It's not open like v2 Core was, but if you dive down, they say all code that may be needed for external integrations has been licensed under GPL or MIT, aka fully open source, including math libraries, peripheral contracts, interfaces, and the developer SDK. The key there is peripheral contracts. Those are fully open source. That means this GitHub Uniswap v3 periphery contracts is open to the public to use. Back to the v3 blog, they said, partners and integrations can begin building on Uniswap v3 immediately in preparation for mainnet launch, and additional infrastructure to support fungible positions, liquidity mining, more complex strategies, and various other use cases will be built by Uniswap Labs together with the Uniswap community after mainnet launch. So because of those factors, these facts, open source periphery and partners getting prepared, I would be eyeing the projects that are already preparing for the v3 launch. This week I already covered one, but now let's cover the rest. And one I've covered in the past, but we need to recover, is XToken. They tweeted March 31st. Some big news from us. We're excited to announce XU3LP, a convenient, fungible solution to Uniswap v3 liquidity provision. Stay tuned for more updates as we prepare for a launch shortly after Uniswap v3 deployment in May, of which Hayden, the founder of Uniswap, retweeted with big eyes. Now go back to their tweet. They say they will launch a fungible solution to the non-fungible LPs of Uniswap v3 shortly after the deployment. Back in the v3 blog of Uniswap, they say these fungible position infrastructures will be built by Uniswap Labs together with the Uniswap community. Non-fungible back to fungible. Is XToken that community? It smells like it to me. Now we know LP positions in Uniswap v3 are non-fungible, and Dan Robinson of Paradigm, Uniswap's main VC backer, tweeted about this 2 days ago. He said, question for those concerned about Uniswap v3 liquidity positions being non-fungible. What specific use case for liquidity tokens are you worried about losing? And in the thread we can see a ZK replies his worry. the ability for passive LPs to compete on relatively equal footing against each other. And Freddie replies, there will be many third-party providers allowing any passive LP to deposit their tokens and participate in dynamic LPing strategies. A Claude asks, what teams and devs are working on that? And Bizarka replies, Visor is working on NFT Smart Vault, then supervised to apply strategies. Alchemist is really similar, but a more chaotic approach in their roadmap, but close ties between the team and Uniswap. And then you can see Visor does jump in and say they are working on just that. So does Visor have ties to Uniswap v3? Well, unlike XTK, there has been no reciprocation from Hayden or the Uniswap team when they tweet. Besides Alchemist, NFY, and Visor, there is a fourth project already working on this NFT LP standard, whose launch is kind of suspicious to me. This is Method Finance. Why is their launch suspicious? Well, it kind of coincided directly with the Uniswap v3 announcement. March 21st, Method announced their NFT Vault solution, and then just 2 days later, Uniswap v3 was announced, of which Method retweeted. Just great timing by a clever team, or more than meets the eye. Well, let's look into both Visor and Method, and this goes back into what I think. Alchemist is the one. Diving into Visor's GitHub, you can see they forked Alchemist, as well as the OG below, NFY. And the same kind of goes for Method, forking only Alchemist. So I'm sticking heavily with the OGs, Alchemist and NFY, but I'm eyeing the others and seeing what they are doing with the NFT LP space. But now it's time for that Chico research everyone loves. A possible Uniswap partner who could be coming with a token possible airdrop very soon. That is the Gelato Network, who last week went into version 2 of their protocol. And as we can see, a major component of this was the ability to place limit orders on Uniswap, which they had an example of through Sorbet Finance. Okay, Tyler, that is just limit orders on V2 of Uniswap. What does Gelato have to do with V3? Well, let's just dive into the blog of V2 of Gelato. The team said this regarding the protocol. Furthermore, Gelato V2 was built to complement next generation protocols, like Uniswap V3, which leads to a lot of features, open-ended for third parties to build out. For instance, Gelato can automate a variety of functions of Uniswap v3, including reinvesting fees back into the pool, converting LP NFTs into wrapped ERC20s, and automating LP price ranges. Nice functions, but the key for us is automating LP price ranges. As if you go back to the V3 blog, they have a section on range orders and say, V3 LP customizability opens up a novel order feature to complement market orders, which we are calling range orders. LPs can deposit a single token in a custom price range above or below the current price. If the market price enters into their specified range, they sell one asset for another along a smooth curve, while earning swap fees in the process. And Gelato is looking to automate this LP price range process. Back to the Uniswap v3 blog, they also say range orders within wider ranges may prove particularly useful for profit taking, buying the dip. Okay, those type of functions would only be possible if there were stop loss features for the LPs. Profit taking is a stop loss automated strategy. Back to the V2 Gelato blog, they say several use cases we are actively exploring include limit orders, dollar cost averaging for AMMs and aggregators, and stop loss for LPs, which would allow LPs to eject from liquidity pools when impermanent loss becomes too great. Is all Chico has to say, but what about that Gelato token? I spoke of it coming before, but now I have even more confirmation that a token is coming from Gelato. Back in their V2 blog, they said, for this reason, we chose to implement Gelato v2 using the Diamond Standard, otherwise known as EIP 2535. The upgradable protocol is secured by a multisig controlled by the Gelato core development team. However, there are already concrete plans to transition this control over to the upcoming Gelato DAO, which will launch in Q2 this year. Gelato DAO? A DAO usually has a token, right? And we are currently in Q2 of this year. Well, the Gelato team 6 days ago gave a deep overview of everything they just released. But this is what Hilmar X, Gelato developer, had to say at the end of the video.
We're just starting kind of like building our community right now. And there will be also more incentives for other people to get on board the Gelato community pretty soon. We are launching a DAO in the not too distant future. The governance should be the system at the moment is controlled basically by our development team, but we want to completely decentralize that and have the community basically control the network and be able to set certain parameters to make everything secure and work nicely.
Just speaking of that DAO, but he expanded on that just a bit later, specifically mentioning the word token.
So I think people are really excited about the DAO. So do you want to talk about that, or just we can save for the next time?
Yeah, we can maybe do like a separate session on the DAO maybe at some point, and about like governance and
yeah,
how we want to kind of like diffuse it to the people, because it has also some token components, right?
Did you hear that? He mumbled it has some token components. So I would get involved with Gelato, use Sorbet Finance, figure out how to get the tokens. As they said, they will be releasing that information soon. Cheers, I'll see you next time.